television show Who is Who? This is the Ukrainian television show Who is Who, the year of 2011. Welcome to the Who is Who show. Today we are going to talk about people who came from abroad and made a career and life for themselves here in Ukraine. I need to say thank you to my dear co-host. She even organized the whole episode for us foreigners. So thank you so much to Ms. Litvinenko. This is going to be a very fun program because believe me, we have some very noble, cool, awesome people from abroad who came and are now bringing glory to Ukraine because of their work here. Do you remember the first time you came to Ukraine? Well, yes, Yulia. Avoiding your gaze that is full of distrust, I will tell you that my first visit to Ukraine was like a pilgrimage. I went to all the holy and most visited tourist spots here, and I fell in love with the city. How we sing, I was just lost in the city. Our first guest came to Ukraine as a starry-eyed 19-year-old university student. He stayed here until now and is now a Ukrainian billionaire from Pakistan. Welcome. Hello, I'm the main economist of our program. That's why it's very nice to meet you. Our Pakistani millionaire Zahur. It's because you're the economic manager of a show that we don't have a lot of money. It's very nice to have a millionaire. That is one of the richest hosts in Ukraine said that. But okay, Mr. Zahur, it's very nice to have millionaires. What is your first impression of Ukraine when you came here? You came to Ukraine in 1994, right? And I came exactly 2 decades earlier. I came to Ukraine in 1974. I came to Donetsk, the eastern Ukrainian city, and I really liked the city. I had assumed that Donetsk meant coal mines, metallurgy, that the air and the streets would be full of coal dust, but no, it was a very green city, very ecological, and I love it. At the beginning of the 70s, there were race riots and protests in London, and so when you come from an eastern country, you start to think that if I go to a foreign country, they're going to treat you like trash. They're going to treat you badly. But when I came to Ukraine, everything was different. How was it different? People treated me very well. They say that even the walls help you at home. That's a Ukrainian expression that means that it's a lot easier to be successful and to become who you want to be in your own country. However, isn't Ukraine the place where you found your riches? Yes, Ukraine and Russia are the places where I was able to become successful. Well, I came to Ukraine, I got an education, I studied, I went back to Pakistan, I got some experience, then I returned in the 80s to Moscow, and that was when the Soviet system was beginning to have some cracks appear in it. And as it began to collapse in the Soviet Union, when people didn't know what to do, when the government-controlled companies, as in all the companies and all the monopolies were falling apart, that is when my experience was able to flourish, because there was many opportunities, but nobody knew where to move forward to. we have a rule here, usually in Ukraine, that whenever a Ukrainian student goes abroad, that shows the economic status of their parents, because usually well-to-do families can afford to send their children to study abroad. So since your parents sent you to study in the Soviet Union, they must have not been poor, huh? Nope, my parents were affluent. Who did they work as? My father was the financial ministry of a province in Pakistan. Wait, so if you're from a well-off Pakistani family, then I have one question for you. Why Ukraine? Well, why not? Why not? Because you know that you're going to do well in Pakistan. Why do you come here? Yeah, why do you come to Ukraine? Well, I just had to fly over Russia to get to Ukraine. Pakistan is completely different from Ukraine. A different language, a different culture. How long have you been in Ukraine, by the way, Mr. Zahud? I've been here since the 1974. Sure, I've been in other Soviet republics and etc. since then, but 37 years in all, right? By the way, do you get offended when people ask you, why do you live in Ukraine and not anywhere else? Does that offend you? It depends on who's asking. Well, if it's a native Ukrainian asking you, well, sometimes people ask me, why do you live here? Aren't you a citizen of England? Why don't you live there? I say, that's my choice. I like it here. Let me live here. Hey, I love that simple answer. What do you like here? I like everything here. I like my friends here. I studied with them. In the other countries that I'm associated with, I don't have those type of friends. I like the simpleness of the people. It just attracts you. The people are sincere. And aside from business, there are many positive sides that causes people to want to stay in Ukraine. Today we're discussing very famous foreigners here in Ukraine that had success here in Ukraine. So what do you call 3 successes and achievements and accomplishments of Ukraine? What does Ukraine have? What are 3 big achievements? The first one I already said was the people. The nation, the people living in this country, the accepting nature of their soul, the way that they accept foreigners immediately. We have a great nation. That's number 1. Second of all, for some people, it might be an unhappy fact. For others, it might be a happy one. But it's the reason that the whole world came to find out about Ukraine, the 2004's Orange Revolution. And last of all, our great achievement is the Klitschko brothers, world champions in boxing. Billionaires work a lot, though, don't they? That's the stereotype. Do they know how to rest? Do you ever rest? Well, when I rest, I work. So I don't rest unless I'm working. So even if I go and go to a resort or something like that, my phone's with me, my laptop's with me. Okay, then how about when you come home after a stressful day of work? Who's by your side? My beloved wife. Aw, look at him go. And together with her, I work the best. Could you have chosen a non-Ukrainian as your wife? Yeah, of course. How can you say that? I don't think you could have. Well, if you're giving me the option, I could have. It's possible, but I wouldn't have. That's a good answer. Could we meet your wife? You're not here alone today, are you? No, I'm with my spouse. How do you usually call her? Well, I usually call her the same thing everybody else does. Kamalia. All right, Kamalia in the Who is Who studio. Good day. Finally, we were able to find you a time slot to meet with your very busy husband. This year you were at a very large international musical festival. Unfortunately, you didn't see me there. Your spouse, when you told him, all right, hubby, come on, you can't just be working at the time, you have to go rest sometimes. Combine business and pleasure, let's go to the festival. Did he find some excuses? Did he find some ways to get out of it? Every time that you try to go on holiday, does he try to run away from it? How did you get him to go to enjoy himself at a musical festival? He always says yes when I ask him to go to some type of event because he's always worrying about me and he doesn't want me to be upset or to be going out alone. Alright, I have a woman-specific question for you. Did you marry a millionaire or a billionaire? Well, when I married him, he was still a millionaire. Mr. Zahur, you have got yourself a great wife. By the way, Mr. Zahur, your wife is in a profession that often causes partners to get jealous. She has starred as an actress in several TV shows. She's in the show business. She's a singer. And I want to ask you, actually, not Miss Zahur, not your husband. Is your husband a jealous person? Does he get jealous when you have to play some roles with another love interest on screen? No. My husband is a noble man. He knows that no one could ever compete with him. Will you confirm that, Mr. Zahur? I trust my wife to the point that she will. I'm sure that she is just unable to do what people suspect many actors of. You are a person from the East, right? So, according to your traditions, your wife should follow you and follow in your steps. However, you decided to stay and live in Ukraine together with your wife. What does that mean? It means that I love her more than she loves me. Good answer. And are you okay with that as an Eastern man? Well, the point is that for love, an Eastern man will have to sacrifice something. Who's the head of your family? Who's the master? In a Jewish family, the woman is always at the head. And Muslims and Jews are hopping a yell away from each other. So I think that in our family, the neck is also Somalia. She's what our whole family revolves around. Many Ukrainian men cannot admit that because they don't want to be called a doormat that lets their woman walk all over them. Well, they have an inferiority complex or something. Meanwhile, I don't. Do you fight sometimes? And what do you fight over? Well, yeah, I guess we fight over some little things. What are little things for you? She wants to go on holiday to Monaco, and I want to watch football or soccer, for example. How do you make up after a fight? Well, she comes up to me, gives me a kiss. She's the one that initiates. All right, we've agreed we're going to Monaco, right? That's usually how it's resolved. Be honest with me now, Mrs. Zahur. Does he control the finances and the spending in the family? For example, because I'm sure that you have the budget of the Russian Federation in your hands. Well, sometimes when it comes to huge amounts of money, he doesn't control, he just asks, how did you spend all of that in a few days? That's why he has money, because he knows how to count it. What, do you have servants and stuff in your house? No, I like to be alone. I don't really like to have a maid or attending to me or chasing after me. So you wash your plates and take out your trash like what most people do? Well, those are the things I don't like to do. But otherwise, I don't want people to serve me and so on. But I would be glad to follow you and give you your suit when you need it, or your coat. Is it possible as a billionaire to have close, brother-like relationships with people of the same financial status? Do you have any like that? I doubt it. That's awesome. Then I can become your only friend. A person in Ukraine who is successful in all senses of the word, a billionaire, do you think that he has the obligation to spend money on Ukraine and to help this country? I think he is. Do you do that? So do you do that? Yes, I do it. Yes, I do. You donate to charities and everything? Alright, please come to Georgia. I have a bunch of cities I'd like you to come and enjoy. You've been in Ukraine for 37 years. If you could go back to 37 years, would you go to Ukraine? Would you choose to go to Ukraine all over again? I don't know how I would have reacted 37 years ago or over the course of each of those years. But if you asked me, I think that most of the time I would have said, yes, I want to go to Ukraine. Now we have a very successful preacher here in Ukraine, Pastor Sunday Adelaja. Mr. Zahud, you don't know Pastor Sunday? Well, now we know each other. How do I call you, Sir Pastor? Pastor Sunday. Pastor Sunday. My Yulia said that you came to Ukraine with a mission. When did you come to Ukraine? 18 years ago. Do you know the Ukrainian language? I understand it very well, replies the pastor in Ukrainian. I was just asking Mr. Zahur, if you are successful in a country, for example, you are successful here in Ukraine, should you spend money in Ukraine and use your money to support Ukraine? But I'll ask you, do you think it's important for foreigners to learn the language of their land and to have respect for the local language and culture? Without a doubt. Why then there's so many Russians on the Georgian sports team don't even speak Georgian? Wow, that's a good question, I guess. And there was that interview not long ago. One of our footballers here in Kyiv was asked why he doesn't try and learn Ukrainian. He's from Russia. After all these years of playing here, and he actually said, "Why should I?" Meanwhile, Sunday Adelaja is setting a great example for us. Sunday Adelaja is your real name, right? You had just a bright, eclipsing career here in Ukraine. People believe that the economic miracle that happened in your life only could have happened in the 90s, where so many people lost the faith in everything. Is that what you speculated on? People's loss of faith and everything else? Well, In Ukraine, people mostly know the Orthodox Church only, but Protestantism is widespread among the whole world. That's why I think that rather than calling Protestants members of a sect or a cult here in Ukraine, people should look out at the rest of the world, because they are accusing a large amount of people of being in a cult, if that is the case. Where are you from, Pastor Sunday? I'm from Nigeria. Why did you ever work as a pastor in Nigeria? No, I didn't. How come? Because just like Zahur, I came here as a 19-year-old. You came to Belarus. Yes, I came to Belarus. I finished a master's in journalism in Belarusian State University with distinction. And it's only after that I came to Ukraine and was called. Who are your parents? They're just normal people. My mom sold products on the market, and my dad died. I never knew him. Pastor Sunday, you know many famous people here in Ukraine. Has that helped you in your career? Are you implying the mayor Chernovetsky, right? What? Who are you implying? Who are you implying? Is that the guy who flew to space? Do you want to talk about the former mayor? No, I mean, that's usually who people ask me about, but... Okay, let's change the topic then. What do you say about Ukraine whenever you travel to foreign countries? Do you go to Nigeria, for example, sometimes? Yep, I used to go to Nigeria 3 times a year. And whenever I go abroad, I call myself one of the main ambassadors from Ukraine to the rest of the world. Even if God didn't send you, it's awesome that you're an ambassador. Do you have a club of diasporans here in Ukraine? They say that foreigners often form diasporas, expats often form diasporas in the countries they find themselves in. Do you have that in Ukraine, Mr. Zahur, Pastor Sunday? Well, in my opinion, there aren't enough foreigners in Ukraine for us to have our own community. There's not so many Indians or Pakistanis here, so or people from other countries here. So I don't really have a community at all. Over your time here in Ukraine, has anything really disappointed you? I can't remember off the top of my head. Maybe something did happen, but something that would make me want to leave, that would leave and pack my bags and leave, that never happened. Even though Kiev failed at the tournament, well, if it was Donetsk soccer team that failed, then I would be upset, but it's just Kiev, the capital, so... Meanwhile, Pastor Sunday has multiple times tried to pack his bags and leave Ukraine. Yeah, 1,000 times. How come? My good friend Valid will be here now, and he can tell you about racism in Ukraine. Yes, Mr. Valid Harfush came from Lebanon, and he has done a lot against the racism in Ukraine. He is the head of Euronews in Ukraine and the head of the national Ukrainian television channel, Valid Harfush. Valid, if you heard our discussion, Pastor Sunday invited you as his lawyer apparently, because he says that it's hard for him to live in Ukraine. He's still here though. Is he lying about something, or is he keeping quiet about something? I think that a person like Sunday and everything that's happening with him around his life is... is connected to the path that he's chosen. To go to an Orthodox country and start promoting the doctrine of another denomination is quite tough. I like Pastor Sunday as a person. I don't care about his skin color, where he's from, or his religion, because this person just campaigns for the same things that I do. Like what? Like racism. We've done a lot together for the fight against racism in Ukraine. Could you have imagined that a person from Lebanon would become the director of the national television channel of Ukraine? I never thought about that personally for myself. When I was coming to Ukraine as a student, I only had two dreams. That was to see my older brother, and to have a family, to have kids and a wife in the future. I didn't expect to become the head of the national news company. I'm a Lebanese person that doesn't even speak Ukrainian, and praise the Lord that I was able to do that, because I'm definitely indebted to Ukraine. I've heard a lot of criticism. But I'm still happy to be here. By the way, we're not criticizing too. Any place where there are millions, I cannot calm down. I remember that at a concert I met Walid. I was begging him to show me his pockets, and there was more than in my car pockets. It was so embarrassing. Have there so Mr. Our Pakistani millionaire, would you tell us, have any political parties ever tried to consume you and envelop you and to bring you into their party? Because of all your millions and all your influence? No, I'm completely apolitical. I've never campaigned for or been attracted to one party over the other. By the way, you're an English citizen, aren't you? Do you want Ukrainian citizenship? I don't. Why not? Your wife is a Ukrainian citizen, no? And your children? Well, because that would be troublesome to go back and forth and to be changing your passports and permits and everything. It's easier for me to move around with English passport. What about you, Pastor Sunday? You don't have a Ukrainian citizenship either. No, I have a Nigerian citizenship, but I think it's already big that I'm living here in Ukraine, because if you ask every second Ukrainian whether or not they would leave Ukraine if they had the opportunity to, unfortunately, I think that about half of the country would leave, because there's a lot of people leaving Ukraine at the time. I'm staying here, and that's why I'm always getting confused when people call me a person when I'm called someone who's not a patriot of Ukraine and accused of everything. Oh, come on, don't say that. Nobody's accusing you here, Pastor Sunday. Just look at me and calm down. Walid is the person who has the Ukrainian. Walid's the only person who has Ukrainian citizenship here. Why do you have Ukrainian passport? Well, from 2005 I have a Ukrainian passport, and I like it that way. For the rest of our guests, it's easier for them to move throughout the world with a foreign passport. Well, I wanted a Ukrainian passport because my wife is a Ukrainian citizen, my children are Ukrainian citizens, and it would just be strange and wrong, I think, for me to have a completely different passport and to possibly be causing problems for my family at passport controls and everything. I love the country Ukraine, it makes me proud, and that's why I carry my passport with pride too. Do you feel that you are an immigrant? Well, I think that once an immigrant, almost an immigrant. To me, once you live in a country that you weren't born in, you are an immigrant. I've never been able to look into the mirror and say that I am Ukrainian. I feel that in part I belong to Ukraine, but I am an immigrant, yeah. What about you, Pastor Sunday? I don't feel like an immigrant here in Ukraine. I feel like a foreigner. So it's like what Valid said. Valid says that he has tied his future with Ukraine forever, and he feels himself like an immigrant just because he was born in a different country. However, you say you're a foreigner. Have you not tied your future with Ukraine? Are you implying that you will leave Ukraine someday? Yes, I will. How come? How come you say that you want to leave Ukraine? I will leave Ukraine. When? If I could leave Ukraine today, I would have been gone yesterday. However, I don't want to leave Ukraine because of some personal reason. It's because I am a global citizen. It's because I'm a person of mission. Because my goal and my mission is to carry the gospel all over the world, from country to country. And to live in one country is just not interesting for me. I've been in more than 50 countries, and I'm living 50 countries, and I'm living according to the mission. What can I do for you, brother? What can I do for you, brother? They say that immigrants know the feeling of nostalgia, just complete and total nostalgia more than anything else. Is it true? I think that during the time of the Soviet Union, immigrants were really what we see as immigrants. They would say bye to their friends, parents, and they would be going somewhere far off for a long time, and they may not be able to see many of their close and loved ones again. Now, our world has become so much of a small place that every time I want to see my brothers or my father, I can just give them a call, I can hop on a flight. It doesn't feel like we're real immigrants anymore. What is the symbol of Ukraine for you, Valid? What personifies Ukraine? Before, I wasn't sure, but I think that the symbol of Ukraine today is sports. Whenever I work with foreigners, what they know most about Ukraine and what they ask most about Ukraine is sports. People ask about the stadium in Donetsk. People ask about Shevchenko, Klitschko. That is why it's a good choice to call the personification of Ukraine sports. When I was a member of the Mrs. World beauty pageants, I had to explain for so long what Ukraine is. I had to get out maps to show them. People would ask, is this Russia? I'd say, no, it's close to Russia. I had to explain the culture, the people, everything. I think that something that has interested me over the course of this whole program is that whenever you ask the billionaire billionaire questions, you always ask him with this approach. As an Eastern man, as a person from the East, I think that the best approach that we need to have here in Ukraine is to see people as people first of all, not just stereotypes based on where they were born. So thank you for that journalism lesson, Mr. Arfush. However, if you continue lecturing us, we will just fall asleep. So, as a person who comes from the East, no, I think that since Mr. Arfush is acting as a journalist in this case, he has some questions for you. Let's just... So let him ask his questions. No, I don't have any questions. I just wanted to notice something. Ukraine accepts all foreigners with open arms. And if you are a talented foreigner, then you're welcome 100%. This is, we have a friend from Latvia, Riga, who thinks that Ukraine is a great place for realizing your potential. He was under the auspices of the Georgian Adelaja, and now he's here. His name is Stas Shurins. He's a singer here in Ukraine. I'm just a normal Latvian guy who didn't know what to do with my life, and once I came to study here in Ukraine, I met a person that told me, hey, I think I know what you want. You want to be an artist. And that is what I wanted. And that's why I love Ukraine with everything I have. I will never want to leave this country. Okay, this is where I have to mention that only a blind man will not admire the Ukrainian nation. This is a country of faithfulness, a country of sincerity, a country that accepted me and helped me to become who I am. So, our young, gifted youth, you don't have your own family right now, but what is your mom and dad like? He's asking about your sexual orientation, isn't he? Okay, your questions and your personal preferences you can mention on your own time. When I came to Ukraine, I was 18, and here was my mother's rule. While you're 17, you need to come home at 11, latest. Once you're 18, you can come home at 1 a.m. or whenever you want to. So she gave me a lot of independence, and as I went to Ukraine, she didn't try to control me as well. You tie your future with Ukraine, right? Not with Riga. No, and that, yeah, I do. Why? Because you won a singing competition here in Ukraine? No, because I already understand the Ukrainian language. And do you? Yeah, because my coach was always speaking a mix of Ukrainian and Russian. You were in the team of my compatriot, a Georgian, and rather you were in a whole melting pot of cultures. After experiencing so many different cultures, what contrast do you see between Latvian culture and Ukrainian culture? Ukrainians are warmer and friendlier, I guess, maybe because Latvia is more of a northern culture. Latvia and the capital city Riga always seems to be sleeping and calm. If you go there during rush hour, there'll be 4 cars on the street, and in Kiev, in Ukraine, during any working day, the cars are everywhere. So, have your relatives ever told you that going to another country is bad because foreigners aren't well loved? No, it's turned out the other way around because since I won the competition, I feel like the nation loves me rather than makes things hard for me. So you want to. So do you feel yourself? So do you see yourself as a Ukrainian sometime? Do you think you can feel like a Ukrainian with time? I already do. At first it was hard because I read on some forums discussing me while I was still in the competition, and some people would say, "Oh, what's this short little Latvian doing here? Why doesn't he just go home?" Why doesn't he just go home? But now I've proved myself. I think I've become more loved. Not everybody loves me, but thank you. But thank you for your love, Ukrainian nation. I think I've been accepted, and I love it here. We have a vocalist from the group Chornobrivtsi, which translates to England as handsome men. Adelaja came to us from Uganda. Hello. I give thanks and praises to Jaja above. I give thanks and praises to Jaja above. Welcome, people. Welcome. Bravo. Thank you. How long have you been in Ukraine? 10 years, almost. How has it been? Sometimes it has been good, sometimes it has been bad. What has been bad? This is Stephen Okur. Well, I will tell you that if it was always good, if everything was good, then I would have been a bit bored here. Wow, please explain that to Sir Sunday, because as soon as things get bad, he wants to pack his bags and leave. Pastor Sunday just has subtle humor. You just need to understand him, or you just need to understand what he's trying to say. Wow, you're a peacemaker, aren't you? The humor is too subtle for us to understand. What's the name of your group? I want to hear your pronunciation. The Chornobrivtsi group. How many people are in your group right now? He's speaking Ukrainian. We have 3 vocalists. You sing Ukrainian songs, Ukrainian folk songs. Can you sing some now? All right. Thank you for the performance. That was 2 oak trees on a hill, the Ukrainian folk song. Why do you sing? How many Ukrainian songs have you sung? Of all the songs we have made, we were able to now have a concert that would be at least 45 minutes. So that, I think, is a good amount of songs. And so many more will still be made because the Ukrainian music scene has always been on fire. Who is your target audience, an audience here in Ukraine? Who are they? Are the people who are listening now, watching our program now, are they your audience? Well, they will be. I think that our audience are those who value Ukrainian music and the Ukrainian language. What about the melodies and folk music of Uganda? Is there anything similar between Ugandan music and Ukrainian music? The notes are pretty similar, but let me say that there's a lot of things that we take from Ugandan music and combine it with Ukrainian music. and because they work well together. Could you demonstrate then? Because your first performance was very beautiful, but I want to hear some melodies from Uganda. How do they sound? Just a beautiful melody. All Ugandan melodies are beautiful. But show us one. Do you want to hear how I sing them? Are you all pastors or something? I just told you 15 minutes ago, just sing. You had such a nice performance at the beginning. Let me tell you that I learned to perform from you. So, it turns out he's not from Uganda. Alright, let's get started then. Let me start with Hakuna Matata and try to combine it with Ukrainian folk music. So we can sing together after. Dalia's carrying water, and after her trails Ivan, just like Periwinkle. Thank you very much. I want to say a few words. My city, Tbilisi, is just like Kyiv, full of atmosphere. And Odessa, many Ukrainian cities, Ukraine as a whole, is a country of atmosphere. I work here, and I've gotten so much criticism from Yulia, because he doesn't want me to love this country sincerely. But I do love this country. Whatever you tell me about politics, I love Ukraine for two reasons. First of all is because Yulia, out of the woman, and second is Pastor Sunday, right? Stephen, I have another question to you. What do you see as the symbol of Ukraine? What do you admire in Ukraine? I can say in our country, yeah? What do you admire about our country? Yes. To be honest, the symbol of Ukraine should be the Ukrainian language. There we go. Let's go. But right now, I see that that is not the case, which is very sad for me, because the symbol of Ukraine is the talent. All the talents that we have here in the country, musical talent, athletic talent, all the talents that are in this country. We got a message from the good people who work on our awesome TV channel. It's paramount for those of you who love Ukraine to say welcome to Ukraine in your native tongue. Is that an original question, Valid? It's not based on race?
أهلا وسهلا بأوكرانيا. خوش آمدید يوكرين.
Ekabo, Ukraina.
Apanasham, Otak. Karibuni, Ukraina.
That's how we do it in Uganda. Yulia, now in Georgian. Welcome to Who is Who. We'll see you in a week.